Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this. It's the 10th of January, 2024, a Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to tell you guys, I got a good show for you guys. I'm going to talk about. Well, I watched the videos on the alien, supposed alien in Miami. I'll give you my opinion on that later in the show. We're going to talk about some other things going on. Right here in Canada, one of the things I'm going to talk about real quick. I think I'll start the show talking about what happened here in Canada. A reporter, was trying to get an interview, and he was... The video, I watched the video last night. I was kind of in disbelief because there was all these policemen there, and they were all dressed in black. Everybody was dressed in black. I found that unusual. But anyway, the reporter was trying to get his interview, and they kind of blocked his way a little bit, and he kind of bumped into... it was the way they arranged themselves. He had himself, the policeman was all dressed in black. He didn't even look like a cop. But he had himself positioned so that when the reporter was trying to walk through, the reporter accidentally bumped into him. There was a way he's positioning himself. He had big wide shoulders, his shoulders are sticking out in the alleyway. And so the reporter was trying to get the interview, and he had his mic, and that's what he was paying attention to, what he was doing. Anyway, he accidentally bumped shoulders with the policeman. The policeman instantaneously went into, "You just assaulted me. You assaulted a police officer." And they wrestled him and put his arms behind his back. And the reporter was like, when he bumped into the guy, he said, "Excuse me." But that wasn't enough. Anyway, it made a big scene up here in Canada. And what happened was public opinion was obviously on the side of the reporter. But I was just saying to myself for a second there, I said to myself, hey, you know what? If the cameras hadn't have been there to back up the reporter's story, it's only because the whole thing was caught on camera. That's what saved his butt. So anyway, there's a big tiffy over that happening up here right now. Now, we're going to get into some other stories, I told you guys that the Fed is going to shift positions on all this, and they're going to shift in a big way. They're going to be forced to shift into a big way. And their bank term funding program, it ends in March. And it's not looking like they're going to renew it. So they're going to be forced into having to probably cut rates earlier than expected. It says the Federal Reserve is likely to retire the Bank Term Funding Program in March. This would entail an additional ongoing headwind for reserves, thus liquidity through 2024. At the margin, this adds weight to the case for the Fed cutting interest rates sooner this year. And it goes on to talk about how the Bank Term Funding Program was created. It goes on to show a number of charts. And it says this is not good optics, so it's unlikely the program will be renewed when it's due to expire on March 11th. Michael Barr, the Fed's vice chair for supervision, hinted as much on Tuesday when he emphasized that the Bank Term Funding Program is an quote-unquote emergency program. It's just an emergency program. It's not something that we're going to continue year after year. So it's going to expire on March 11th. So we're probably looking at, I would say when things start to really get sour. See, right now you got these ones like Janet Yellen saying, "Oh, soft landing, soft landing." Picture Janet Yellen on an airplane. They're coming down. for their soft landing. They're going to touch down. And she's calming everybody on board. It's going to be a soft landing, soft landing. Okay? This is what's going on right now. So all the people are seated in their seats, and they're listening to what she's saying. It's going to be a soft landing. They're getting ready to touch down. They can see the airplane approaching the runway. Okay? But what Janet Yellen doesn't know is the airplane doesn't have any landing gear down. So, yeah, they're going to have a soft landing, but it's going to be on the belly of the aircraft, and it's going to slide across the runway, slide off the end of the runway, and burst into flames. That's what's going to happen. And so at that point in time, they are going to need to get these interest rates down as fast as they can. That's what we're heading into. Now, in other news here, Iran. They brought that big ship in, there's a picture of it, into the Red Sea area. And I find this very unusual. What happens is Iran is warning the United States against what they call, in quote-unquote, adventurism, after parking their cruise missile armed warship in the Red Sea. And what I got a big kick out of here was what they said, Iran's statement. Here's a statement right here. The Islamic Republic of Iran has always placed great importance on maritime security and freedom of navigation and reaffirms its unwavering commitment to upholding its international obligations and maintaining peace and security in the region. That was the Iran statement. Okay, what I get a kick out of is that sounds like the statements that come from the United States all along. The United States always say things like that. It could be, instead of just the Islamic Republic saying it, listen to the way it's worded. They have always placed a great importance on maritime security and freedom of navigation, and they reaffirmed their unwavering commitment to upholding international obligations and maintaining peace and security in the region. Doesn't that sound like a statement that would come from the United States? But it's coming from Iran. And that just kind of made me laugh. It just really, really, really made me laugh about that. The fact that they're starting to try to take the position of being the policeman, which is a position that the United States has been. But the United States, what's happening right now, they're on a slippery slope here in the Middle East, and they're losing their grip by the hour even over the Middle East. It's tremendous what's happening, and they don't call this the petrodollar for nothing. Petro meaning oil from the Middle East. Petrodollar linking to oil to the Middle East. You break that connection, and the dollar is nothing more than a fiat currency, a doomed fiat currency. That connection is being broken at 90 miles an hour right now, and that's why you're seeing countries like Iran make these statements. They're taking it right from the playbook of the United States. What they've seen, it's really, honest to gosh. Things are changing so fast, with the Americans losing their dominance over the Middle East. And this would mean a lot for you. What does it mean for you? It means your currency is going to go into a depreciation period that, like you've never seen. The value of the purchasing power of your currency, the United States dollar, is under a great deal of threat. And that's why this is looking like this is going to spread out into a more regional war. We got 2 wars breaking out right now, guys. 2 new wars. Starting right away. Israel and Hamas to the north in Lebanon. It's getting ready to start. And North Korea and South Korea. The South Koreans are moving their tanks and stuff. They're moving their equipment. And that war never really ended. It's just what do they call it, an armistice or whatever? It's never really ended. It could fire up overnight. Now, we're going to get into the alien thing. I studied UFOs for a very long time. After a sighting I had when I was a young man, I got deeply involved in the study of UFOs, and I knew about this case in Russia that happened 25 years ago. And why it was a landmark case, the Vroznik case, 25 years ago in UFOs, is because normally UFOs, what happens is generally these little small creatures, 3 to 4 feet tall, with almond-shaped eyes and stuff. Nobody ever gets pictures of them, and they're very elusive. But there's many, many, many cases of that. These very elusive little small creatures. They come and they disappear, and nobody ever actually gets pictures or videotape of them or anything. They're just poof, they're gone. Right? And they don't come to places where there's large crowds of people. These little creatures. But this is why this is a landmark case. This Russian case that happened in Vroznik about 25 years ago. And this comes from Time magazine. It talks about it, the extraterrestrial case that happened. They landed right in the center of a park full of people in Russia. People all over the place, hundreds of people, hundreds of eyewitnesses, in broad daylight. And they were 10 feet tall, these creatures. And that's why it was different. That's why it was a landmark case, is because the creatures were not these little creatures. They were these big 10-foot tall aliens. And they landed in a place where everybody could see them. And they didn't try to hide, or they weren't elusive. And it was reported in the Russian newspapers. And it was a real case. There was just too many eyewitnesses to dismiss it. And this made this a landmark case that happened 25 years ago in Russia. But now we had a case like this happen again. Now, I was observing it. I wasn't saying a whole lot about it. The case that happened in Las Vegas, where Las Vegas police responded to a report of a 10-foot high creature in a yard, and they filmed. You see that ball of light up above the police cars? That's a UFO. It's got a slight tinge of green to it. But you know, UFOs change color all the time. It could be orange, yellow, whatever, right? That's a picture taken by a police officer from his cameras that the police officers carry with them when he was responding to this case. And the people in this case of UFO in Las Vegas, there was a lot of eyewitnesses, and they said the creatures were 10 feet tall. Now, when that happened, I immediately thought of that landmark case 25 years ago in Russia. Immediately, that's what was brought to mind. And also, they landed in an area, and it was very similar in respects that there was a lot of people around in Las Vegas, a densely populated area. They didn't really stay hidden. They were waltzing around in the backyard of this guy's place. One of them even got up inside of a big piece of machinery and was trying to work the gears. But one of the unusual things reported here about this Las Vegas case was that there was some sort of energy field around the creatures that didn't make them fully invisible, but it affected cameras. It affected the way people were looking at these creatures, made them hard to see. It was like they were behind some sort of a invisible shield. Do you remember the movie The Predator? You remember he had this shield around him where he couldn't really be seen, but he was seen somewhat. It was like looking at wavy hot air or something, you know. It was like a mirage around the creature in the movie The Predator. Well, the way eyewitnesses describe these creatures, these 10-foot creatures, so you got these facts about their description. One of the, like if it's a crime scene, they always get the person. Well, describe the person that was at the crime scene. The woman might say, well, he was a 6-foot-tall white male and he had brown hair, and go on, Well, this is a description from a lot of eyewitnesses of what the creature having this shielding effect around, and 10 foot high is another feature. And so they just were describing the features, and the witnesses in Las Vegas seem quite all describing the same thing, quite a number of witnesses. So I kind of just marked it down when it happened a number of months ago. Let's see, when was it actually? It was in 2023, the fifth month of 2023. Right here on this guy's film, it says. So I just kind of marked this down in my mental, put it in my little box, and moved on with it. But now we get another one happen, you know? And in Miami, just a few days ago, a 10-foot high alien outside the mall in Miami. And not just outside the mall, from what I gather, there was 3 of them. And a lot of people saw them. And the police come roaring in by the thousands. I guess they thought it was some sort of a mall attack, because people were running and screaming. There's a lot of black people that were witnesses to this. And I watched the testimony of about 3 of them last night. And I looked at their eyes, I looked at their facial expression, and what I determined, what I said to myself, this is just my opinion. I said to myself, hey, you know what? These people aren't lying. They saw something. I could tell by their facial expressions, the way they were intent talking to the camera, and they're all describing the same thing. So we have these eyewitnesses from this Miami thing, like the guy just behind my head here, this guy right here. So they put their testimony online on social media, these eyewitnesses. And this one in particular, next to my head here, he puts his testimony on the internet. And then like a day later, he comes on. And he says, oh, I was just kidding. I was joking. What, you guys took me seriously? No, it was nothing. And then he takes his film footage down that he put on, his testimony down. Now, you know, this is famous in UFO mythology, going all the way back to 1947 with Brazel on the ranch. You know, what they did was they took him out and they interrogated him. And then he come back and said, oh, I never witnessed anything after he was interrogated. Brazel. And this was in the Roswell incident. A number of people in the Roswell incident said their lives was threatened by military personnel or whatever over this issue, to keep quiet and not say anything any longer. And this is an indicator, not that the whole thing's a hoax, but it's an indicator that it's very possibly real. So what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with possibly one group of these beings who are very elusive and don't like, but now maybe we're dealing with these 10-foot aliens who want to be in a crowd. They want to come right down in the midst of a shopping mall, or maybe they love our culture. I want to say something about this, that I was thinking about it last night, you know. We started broadcasting signals out into space, not on purpose, but all of our old shows and stuff, you know, like Amos and Andy, you know, and they would produce a radio broadcast way back in the 1930s or whatever, you know. Lucille Ball shows, all these old sitcoms and TV reruns and stuff were all broadcast on television frequencies in the 1950s. And they've been traveling out there into space at the speed of light. It doesn't matter how weak a signal is. If you've got sophisticated equipment, very sensitive equipment, you can pick that signal up out in space. You could pick it up 5 light years from here, 10 light years from here. It would, at the speed of light, it'd take 10 years to travel that far. And I'm just theorizing here, but you know, maybe the aliens just love maybe they think that we're all just like a comedy here. That we're so stupid. Watching all our old sitcoms like Beverly Hillbillies, you know, watching Jethro. Maybe they're addicted to our old TV shows and stuff, and maybe we've become a tourist attraction, like monkeys in a cage or something, you know. And of course, you know, 10-foot aliens might say, oh, I've always wanted to go to Earth and see these crazy people for myself. You know, where are we going to go? Well, let's go, let's see, what's the biggest places that we could go with big tourist attractions? Where? I know, let's all go to Las Vegas. or let's go to Miami, South Beach. That's really great. You know, whatever, you know. One of the things I saw about this last night is they filmed the UFO coming in about a half an hour earlier in Miami. They filmed it, and it was very impressive, the film footage. Of course, I wouldn't be able to put it on here without maybe a copyright charge, you know. So I find this very interesting. These 10-foot aliens might be a totally different social interaction than the other ones that maybe we've been dealing with over the years. And, of course, their sightings might be quite a bit rarer. You know, I'm just theorizing about all this. I don't know what in the heck's going on. But if for you guys out there saying, come on, Glenn, you're off your rocker, aliens, come on, get real. Well, you know that the Pentagon not long ago said that they're real. Do you believe the Pentagon? And they released footage, film footage of UFOs come directly from the Pentagon. Right behind my head, one of the film clips of UFO released by the Pentagon. Do you believe the Pentagon? Do you believe your own military would lie to you? So why not? If they say they're real, why not 10-foot high, tall ones? You know, and we can talk about it, can't we? So anyway, let's move on and take a look here. What was this one here? Oh, this was one of the witnesses here, this young fella, to the UFO that landed in Las Vegas with the 10-foot aliens. But I'm going to tell you, a 10-foot alien would be really impressive, wouldn't it? Can you imagine seeing him and really seeing a 10-foot tall? I mean, it would be big. Do you know how tall 10 feet is? That's almost twice the height of a regular man. Of course we would be scared, and of course we would run screaming out of the mall. We saw three of them walking around in the mall looking at stuff. Maybe they were having the time of their lives. Maybe they'd look at one another and say, hey, you know what? Let's turn this whole planet into an amusement park. Because humans are so damn amusing. Especially they're so entertaining. We could never think of something like I Love Lucy show, you know, or Beverly Hillbillies and stuff like that. Maybe they got a lot of laughs over the years. Maybe they're very dry and not capable of the kind of humor that we're capable of. Maybe we're much better at that than they are. Maybe they're addicted to our shows. You don't know. Just saying. Okay, so let's take a look at silver today. Silver's $22.83 today. This is just absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, this is absolutely ridiculous. The way the price on everything else has moved up. And we had a price of like $50 years ago on silver. Well, back when I was a little kid. For crying out loud, silver was like double this price. Back during the Hunt Brothers debacle. I remember that when I was a kid. So $22.83 for silver today. That price is just absolutely sick. As far as I'm concerned, consider it's down near mining production cost. What a bargain they've made for you, though. Now, Bitcoin is at 45,349 today. And Ethereum is at 2440 today. And we're taking a look at XRP today, is at 5567 today for XRP. Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 32 points at 37,557. There's another thing. When them rates start to come back down, you watch the market will probably take off. And this whole thing about a market crash didn't really materialize the way I thought it would. But doesn't mean the market can't crash, but it just means that during periods where a currency is losing value very rapidly, what tends to happen is markets tend to hyperinflate as well. So if you've got a hyperinflating currency, oftentimes you'll have hyperinflating markets. So crude oil's at $72.90. Bonds and rates today, we're looking at the bond yields falling. We're looking at the 10-year at 4%. It's dropped 1 basis point, and the U.S. 30-year is at 4.18, and it's dropped 0.4 of a basis point. And finishing off with the dollar index today is at 102.37. So if you guys forgot to push the like button, push it now. Thank you very much for watching my show. I really appreciate my audience out there. And we'll catch you guys in the next show. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Oh, 102.37. If I didn't say it before, I probably said it before. Anyway, see you guys in the next show. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.